The apocalypse didn't come with a bang or a whimper. It came with a confused shrug, as if the universe decided, why not? One day, the sky split open, the oceans boiled, and aliens landed, all in time for lunch. Cities collapsed, society crumbled, and what was left of humanity crawled into the wreckage. The survivors? Well, we weren't exactly the cream of the crop. But here we were, somehow still kicking, mostly because the alternative wasn't all that appealing. I sat on a pile of rubble that used to be something important, probably. I wasn't sure what it was anymore, but it made a decent seat. Around me, a group of similarly unimpressed survivors were lounging like they didn't have a care in the world, which, considering the state of things, made a weird kind of sense. If the world's going to end, you might as well be comfortable. Well, I said, adjusting the piece of metal I'd been using as a backrest. Anybody seen the aliens today? Maybe they decided to quit while they're ahead. Nah, said Rick, the guy who looked like he'd been through at least 2 apocalypses before this one, judging by his permanent grimace. They're probably regrouping. Trying to figure out how to conquer a species that doesn't give a damn anymore. Everyone chuckled. That's the thing. The aliens expected terror, submission, maybe a few tears. What they got was a bunch of people too tired and too desensitized to care. They could at least make it interesting, said Jess, sharpening a stick like she thought it might actually do some damage. Like, come down here, tell us we're all doomed, then zap us with something cool. Not this slow, I'm going to wait until you lose hope nonsense. Hope? Rick snorted. That left the building ages ago. We all laughed again, a hollow sound in the wreckage. It wasn't that we didn't understand the gravity of the situation. It was just that, after everything we'd been through, it felt more like a bad joke than an actual threat. You don't spend years watching your world collapse around you without developing a sense of humor about it. The sound of engines roaring in the sky made us all glance up. Speak of the devil, or in this case, the alien overlords. A sleek, black ship hovered overhead, silent except for the faint hum of energy. Right on cue, I muttered, standing up and stretching like I had all the time in the world. They sure know how to make an entrance. Think they'll give us another speech about how resistance is futile? Jess asked, tapping the point of her stick on the ground. I hope so, Rick grunted. It was funny the first time. Let's see if they change up the script. The ship's engines whined as it descended, landing just a few yards away from us. The ground vibrated under our feet, but none of us moved. A hatch opened, and out stepped one of the Glorith, the alien species that had been harassing us since they showed up. Tall, slender, and gray-skinned, with big, glowing eyes that would have been intimidating if they didn't look so damn confused all the time. This one strutted out with that usual air of superiority they tried so hard to maintain, though it wavered every time they realized we weren't bowing down in fear. The alien's gaze swept over our group, lingering on me for a moment before it spoke in a voice that sounded like metal scraping against rock. Humans, it began, as if we needed reminding. You continue to resist. Your defiance is illogical. Yeah, well, we've never been big on logic, I replied, giving a half-hearted wave. You should have seen us before the apocalypse. Pure chaos. The alien blinked, slowly, deliberately, as if trying to process the fact that I was talking to it like an old friend. I could almost hear the wheels turning in its head. Your planet is in ruins. Your species is on the brink of extinction. Yet you persist in your indifference? Yeah, I said with a shrug. Pretty much. There was a moment of silence, during which I imagined the alien was mentally recalculating its strategy. It stepped forward, looming over me like it thought height was intimidating. You misunderstand your situation, it said. You will submit, or you will perish. I stared up at it deadpan. Perish, huh? Is that a threat or a promise? The alien's glowing eyes flared slightly, a sign of frustration, I think. It wasn't used to this. Not from us. Maybe it worked on other planets, conquer the population, crush their spirit, move on to the next, but Earth? Earth was different. We were different. You do not fear us, the alien said, more a statement than a question. Buddy, I said, we're so far past fear, we're not even in the same galaxy. Jess stifled a laugh behind me. Rick just folded his arms, unimpressed. The alien shifted, clearly at a loss for what to do next. Intimidation wasn't working, and it had no idea why. We have destroyed worlds, the alien said, almost defensively. Your resistance is futile. I smirked. Yeah, you mentioned that last time. Still waiting on the destroying our world part, though. You guys move slower than government bureaucracy. For a split second, I thought I saw the alien flinch. Maybe I was imagining it, but it sure looked like I'd struck a nerve. It wasn't that we were invincible, or that we had some secret plan to save humanity. It was that we didn't give the aliens the reaction they were expecting. They wanted terror, and all we gave them was sarcasm. We will not be mocked, the alien said, its voice tight with barely contained anger. I shrugged. Too late for that. The alien took a step back, glaring at us as if trying to decide whether to incinerate us on the spot or retreat. It opted for the latter, slowly turning and heading back to the ship. See you next time, I called after it. Maybe bring some better threats next time, yeah? As the ship ascended, I sat back down on the rubble, picking up a stray piece of metal to toss around. The others followed suit, settling back into their usual spots. Well, Jess said, that was fun. What do you think? Will they actually follow through one of these days? Nah, I said. They'll keep trying. But they've already lost. Rick raised an eyebrow. How do you figure? I grinned. Because they don't know how to handle a species that laughs at its own destruction. And that was the truth. We might have been on the brink of extinction, but as long as we could laugh in the face of death, we were winning. The alien ship hovered overhead again, but this time, there was no dramatic landing. No slow descent or booming engines. Just a quiet, almost cautious approach. It was like they were testing the waters, trying to figure out what to do with us. I leaned against a half-buried piece of rubble, watching the ship as it floated above. You think they're back for round 2? I asked, mostly to myself, though Jess and Rick were close enough to hear. Rick grunted, scratching at the grizzled stubble on his chin. They didn't get what they wanted the first time. Figures they'd come back to try again. Can't be easy for them to understand why we're not groveling at their feet. Jess was already chuckling. Maybe they're going to try a new tactic. Something more diplomatic. Maybe we'll get a speech about galactic peace and unity. Galactic peace and unity, huh? I snorted. With a side of enslavement, probably. The ship finally settled on a landing spot a little farther away this time, like they didn't want to get too close. Couldn't blame them. Last time, they left with their egos bruised. I could see the hatch open, and sure enough, another one of those Glorith walked out. Different guy this time, taller, maybe a little leaner. He carried himself like he was on some kind of important mission, like he was going to be the one to crack the code on humanity. Well, here we go again, Jess muttered, tapping her fingers against her stick. The alien approached us, stopping just a few feet away. Its glowing eyes scanned the area, probably trying to make sense of the casual way we were all standing around. It was expecting terror again, that much was obvious. When it didn't get it, I could see the slight hesitation in its movement. Maybe it had been briefed on our last encounter, maybe not. Either way, it clearly didn't know what to expect this time. You continue to resist, it said, its voice a little smoother than the last one, less harsh. This is illogical. We offer you a path to survival, yet you mock us. Survival? I said, raising an eyebrow. Is that what you call it? You misunderstand. It continued, ignoring the sarcasm in my voice. Your species has no future here. We offer you the chance to serve us, to live under our protection. Yet you remain defiant. Rick let out a low chuckle, crossing his arms. Protection? Is that what you guys call blowing up half the planet? The alien blinked, its gaze shifting between us. I could tell it wasn't used to this. Back wherever it came from, I bet people, or whatever passed for people there, did what they were told. They followed orders, cowered in fear when someone bigger and stronger showed up. But us? We'd seen too much. Survived too much. You do not comprehend the gravity of your situation, the alien said, its voice gaining a slight edge. Your defiance is futile. Jess cracked a grin. I think we've heard that one before. You guys really need to work on some new material. The alien's eyes flashed brighter for a moment, a sign of frustration, maybe. It was trying hard to keep that calm, superior tone, but it wasn't fooling anyone. We weren't impressed by the light show. You mock what you do not understand, it said, taking a step closer, as if proximity would make its words hit harder. Your species has always been primitive, short-sighted. We offer you the opportunity to rise above that, to serve a higher purpose in the galaxy. Serve? I repeated, raising an eyebrow. You mean be your slaves? We offer survival, it replied like it hadn't even heard my question. Your species has always sought power control. We offer you a chance to thrive under our guidance. Jess leaned on her stick, grinning. Guidance, huh? That's what you call it. What, are you gonna teach us how to be as boring as you guys? The alien's eyes flickered again. It was getting harder for it to hide its frustration. The logic it was so proud of wasn't holding up in the face of our absurd defiance. That's the thing. Logic only works when you're dealing with people who care about the outcome. We didn't care. Not anymore. You failed to grasp the significance of this moment, the alien said, its voice rising slightly, betraying its calm demeanor. This is your last opportunity to avoid annihilation. Rick yawned loudly. You guys are all about that annihilation talk, huh? Starting to sound like a broken record. You will not survive this, the alien said, stepping forward, its glowing eyes boring into us. Your species is doomed. I shrugged. Maybe. But we've been doomed before. Didn't stop us then, won't stop us now. The alien's hands clenched at its sides, the first real sign of emotion I'd seen from one of them. They weren't supposed to let their emotions get the better of them. They were all about cold, hard logic. But it was clear that we were getting under its skin, or whatever they had instead of skin. You do not understand, it said, more forcefully now. We have destroyed civilizations far more advanced than yours. You are nothing to us. Well, that's flattering, Jess said, stifling a laugh. Glad to know we're leaving an impression. The alien's eyes flared, and for a moment, I thought it might actually snap. It was close, real close. And then, just like that, it pulled back. Its hands unclenched, its posture straightened, and it regained its composure. I almost admired the effort. Almost. You have been warned, it said, its voice returning to that icy calm. You will not receive another chance. With that, it turned and marched back to the ship, its head held high like it had somehow won that exchange. As if we were going to change our minds because of a few glowing threats. I watched as the ship rose into the sky, silent except for the faint hum of its engines. Jess glanced at me, raising an eyebrow. Think they'll actually do it this time? Follow through on one of those threats? I shrugged. Maybe. Maybe not. Rick let out a long sigh, shaking his head. They really don't get it, do they? We're not scared. Nope, I said, crossing my arms. And that's why they've already lost. The sky was darkening as the ship hovered once again. They weren't going to give up easily, that much was clear. You could almost feel their frustration, as if they were torn between wiping us off the face of the earth or trying to crack the code of what made us so damn hard to break. We stood around, casually observing as the hatch opened. This time, it wasn't just one alien emissary. A few of them stepped out, all wearing that same superior expression, but you could tell they were rethinking things. The lead alien stepped forward, his posture rigid, like he was trying to convince himself of his own authority. We have studied your behavior, he said, the voice cold and mechanical, and we now understand that your kind's defiance stems from an inability to comprehend the seriousness of your situation. Jess chuckled beside me. They think we don't get it. Cute. The alien's eyes flashed as he continued, undeterred. Your attempts at humor are a coping mechanism for the inevitable destruction you face. It is futile. We offer you one final opportunity to surrender before you are eradicated. I leaned back, crossing my arms, looking up at the ship as if it were nothing more than a mildly annoying cloud in the sky. Eradicated, huh? You guys really love that word. Makes you sound all big and bad. The alien hesitated, glancing at his companions. They were clearly not used to this. On other worlds, this kind of threat probably sent whole civilizations into a frenzy of panic. But us? We'd been living in the chaos for so long, this was just Tuesday. You failed to understand, the alien said, taking a step forward. Your species cannot survive against our technology. Your resistance only prolongs your suffering. Suffering, I said, nodding as if I finally understood. You mean like the suffering we've been through for the last decade? Watching everything we've ever built fall apart, fighting off every kind of disaster imaginable? Yeah, we're real scared of more of that. Rick chimed in with a low laugh. Pretty sure we've already hit rock bottom, pal. You guys are just the next round of bad luck. There was a flicker of something in the alien's eyes, maybe confusion, maybe anger. It was hard to tell with them. But you could feel the shift. They didn't know how to deal with us. Everything they tried, fear, intimidation, logic, it just bounced off. Your humor will not save you, the alien said, his voice colder now. It is a distraction, a meaningless attempt to delay the inevitable. Humor's the only thing that's kept us going, I said, stepping forward now. You wouldn't get it. You don't know what it's like to live in constant chaos. To survive, you've got to find something to laugh at, or you lose your mind. The alien tilted his head slightly, clearly trying to make sense of what I was saying. Behind him, the other aliens were murmuring to each other, their expressions unreadable but tense. You laugh in the face of your own destruction? The alien asked, his tone almost incredulous. Why? Because what else is there? Jess said, smirking. You either laugh or you give up. And we're not giving up. There was a pause. The lead alien turned back to his group, clearly thrown off by the whole exchange. You could almost hear the gears grinding in his brain as he tried to figure out a new approach. You misunderstand the stakes, the alien said, his voice losing some of its cold precision. This is not a matter of persistence. This is about survival. You cannot survive. Who said anything about surviving? Rick asked, grinning. We've been dead inside for years. We're just here for the ride now. That finally got a reaction. The alien leader stiffened, and one of the others stepped forward, muttering something in their language. I didn't understand a word, but the tone was unmistakable. They were shaken, confused. They didn't know how to process us. The leader turned back to us, visibly frustrated. You are delaying the inevitable. Your continued defiance will result in your extinction. I shrugged. Yeah? Heard it all before. But here's the thing, you guys keep talking about inevitable doom like we're supposed to care. But we don't. We're past that. You can't scare people who've already seen the worst of it. That's the problem with you guys. You've got all the tech, all the power, but no idea how to break a species that's already broken itself. The alien leader stared at me, unblinking. Behind him, the other aliens were clearly starting to lose faith in their approach. I could see it in the way they shifted, uncomfortable, unsure. They had the weapons, the ships, the power, but they didn't have us figured out. We are superior, the alien leader said, his voice lower now, almost a growl. Your kind cannot win. Jess laughed, a loud, sharp sound that echoed across the empty landscape. Who said anything about winning? We're just here to annoy the hell out of you. The alien leader took a step back, his glowing eyes narrowing. He didn't say anything for a long moment, just stared at us like we were some unsolvable puzzle. And in a way, I guess we were. Finally, he turned to his companions and spoke quietly in their language. There was tension in the air now, thick and uncomfortable. They hadn't expected this. They hadn't expected us. Without another word, the aliens retreated back into their ship. The hatch closed, and the engines roared to life, lifting the vessel into the sky once again. We watched as it disappeared into the clouds, leaving behind nothing but the faint hum of its departure. "Well," I said, stretching my arms above my head. "That went well." Rick snorted. "Went well? We just confused the hell out of an alien invasion force." "Exactly," Jess said, grinning. "Which means we're winning." "Kind of." I looked up at the sky, wondering what was going through their heads up there. They had all the power in the universe, but they didn't know how to deal with us. That was our real weapon, our refusal to play by the rules. "You know what?" I said, smiling to myself. "I think we've got this." And that was the truth. We weren't stronger. We weren't smarter. But we had one thing they didn't, a sense of humor. And in the end, that's what made all the difference. The sky rumbled as the alien ship returned for what was clearly their final attempt. You could feel it in the air, the tension, the frustration. They had tried logic, intimidation, and threats. None of it worked. Now they were out of ideas. It was almost funny how predictable it was. "They're back," Jess said, tilting her head toward the ship. "Think they finally figured out what to do with us." Rick shook his head, arms crossed as he stared at the approaching vessel. "Doubt it. They're too stuck in their own heads. They don't get that we're not going to break." As the ship landed, the door opened with the same slow, deliberate motion. This time, there were no negotiations, no pretense of diplomacy. The lead alien stepped out again, but there was something different about him now. His posture was tense, rigid, like he was holding back something he didn't quite understand. The glow in his eyes was brighter, more erratic. The calm, calculated control they usually carried was gone. "We have given you every opportunity," he said, his voice sharp, almost shaking. "You have refused each time. Now you leave us no choice." I glanced at Jess and Rick, both of whom looked just as unimpressed as I felt. The aliens had finally reached their breaking point. They didn't know what else to do but push harder, as if that would somehow change our minds. "No choice, huh?" I said, raising an eyebrow. "So, this is the big finale? The part where you finally wipe us out?" The alien's eyes flared. "Yes. You have exhausted our patience. You will be exterminated." Rick let out a low whistle. "Exterminated. That's a fancy way of saying we don't know how to deal with you." Jess grinned. "Guess we finally got under their skin." The alien's face tightened, the glow in his eyes pulsing faster now. "You continue to mock us," he said, his voice rising. "Even in the face of your own annihilation, you find amusement." "Yeah," I said with a shrug. "That's kinda our thing. You wouldn't get it. You think this is a joke?" The alien snapped, his control slipping for the first time. "You think your lives are nothing but entertainment?" I tilted my head, considering. "At this point? Yeah, pretty much. We've seen the end of the world already, so what's a little more chaos? You guys showing up was just the latest act in the freak show." The alien's fists clenched at his sides, his entire body vibrating with anger. It was clear now, he didn't understand us, and it was driving him mad. Everything about us was illogical to them. Our humor, our defiance, our refusal to bow to their superior power. It didn't fit into their neat little boxes. "You will regret this," the alien said, his voice dropping into a cold, deadly whisper. "When your kind is nothing but ash, you will regret every word." Jess stepped forward, smirking. "Regret? Nah, that's your problem, not ours. See, you've been trying to scare us this whole time, but we don't scare easily. Not anymore." The alien stared at her, eyes wide, his glowing pupils flickering like dying embers. For a moment, he said nothing. Just stood there, frozen, as if his mind was struggling to process everything that was happening. It was almost painful to watch. "Here's the thing," I said, stepping closer to him. "You came here thinking you could conquer us. But what you didn't get is that we've already been through hell. We've seen it all. Lived through it. You're just another obstacle. And guess what? We've got nothing left to lose." The alien's mouth twitched, his glowing eyes narrowing into slits. You will lose everything. I laughed, a short, sharp sound that seemed to catch him off guard. We already have. That's why you can't win. You don't know how to fight a species that has nothing left to fear. For a second, the alien looked like he might say something, but then, without warning, his body trembled violently. His hands clenched, and he let out a strange, guttural sound, a mix of rage and confusion. His composure had finally cracked. You are impossible, he hissed, his voice barely a whisper. Your defiance, your insolence. Rick chuckled, shaking his head. Nah, man. It's not defiance. It's just reality. We're not trying to win here. We're just living the only way we know how. The alien took a shaky step back, his glowing eyes flickering wildly. You will pay for this, he said, but the conviction was gone from his voice. It was hollow, like he didn't believe it himself. Jess crossed her arms, her grin never wavering. Maybe. Maybe not. But here's the thing, you've already lost. The alien's eyes flashed, bright and angry, but there was nothing behind it anymore. He turned on his heel, retreating toward the ship, his movements jerky and uneven. It was over. They had come here to crush us, to conquer what was left of humanity, but in the end, they couldn't do it. They couldn't break us. As the ship's door closed and it lifted off into the sky, disappearing into the clouds, I let out a slow breath, feeling the tension drain from my body. They were gone. For now, at least. Think they'll be back? Jess asked, her voice casual, like she was asking about the weather. Maybe, I said, shrugging. But they won't try the same thing again. They know it won't work. Rick scratched his head. So what now? We just wait for the next bunch of aliens to show up and try to scare us. I chuckled. Pretty much. But I don't think anyone's gonna get the reaction they're hoping for. Jess smirked. Damn right. We'll keep doing what we do best, laughing in their faces. I looked out at the horizon, where the ship had vanished, and felt a strange sense of calm wash over me. We weren't heroes. We weren't stronger or smarter than the aliens. But we had something they couldn't understand. And in the end, that was enough. Let them come, I said, smiling to myself. We'll be ready. Jess laughed. Ready? We've been ready. They just didn't know it. Rick nodded, a faint smile tugging at his lips. Damn straight. As we stood there, in the ruins of what used to be our world, I realized something. Humanity had always been stubborn, always finding a way to survive, no matter what. And now, in the aftermath of everything, we had found our greatest weapon. It wasn't guns or bombs. It wasn't technology or numbers. It was our ability to laugh. To face the end with a grin and a joke, because that's who we were. And in the end, that's why we always won.